All right, it's one of my favorite parts of the week here on Wednesdays. And from the 6:30 segment on to the end, we bring in our legal panel here to get into some questions I have, and I know a lot of you have as well here. Let's bring in the team. You got Jim Koussouras. He's criminal defense attorney in Manhattan, lectures at New York Law School, visiting professor at University of Birmingham in England, and I resist doing my British accent there. Doug Von Oist, founding partner of Karsten Von Oist, focused on corporate misconduct, and selected, he likes me to say this, as the Legal 500, one of the most influential trial lawyers in the nation. And Mayo Bartlett, an attorney, of course, and former chief of the Bias Crimes Unit in Westchester County's District Attorney's Office. And you'll recognize his name. There's some high-profile civil rights cases that he's involved with as well. Okay. The Michael Sam story, everybody's been focusing on, guys, here because of the historic nature of it, a barrier being crossed, where you're going to have an openly gay player, in all likelihood that'll be drafted somewhere in the middle rounds of the draft, all SEC defensive player. So that's in itself barrier breaking. But I had a question which stemmed from part of the reason why he made the announcement when he did. The belief is that you had NFL teams that were already starting to ask his representation, his agents, does he have a girlfriend? Who does he see socially? What's basically his romantic prospects? And if you think this is the first time it's happened, we remember the story. Remember, folks, about a couple of years ago, Dez Bryant, a wide receiver now on the Cowboys? Well, his mother was an issue apparently for some interviewers who asked if she was a prostitute. Now, if you think about it, there's only 32 teams. There's only one league. Your paycheck depends on where you fall in the draft. We've seen some players fall, certainly for checkered pass. It's a calculated gamble by the teams. But they hold your rights and they hold your financial future in their hands. So there's a chilling aspect to this. If you're not forthright, they got investigators. So you think you got to volunteer and in some way self-incriminate. But also, your mother? Whether you have to basically out yourself here, how is that, guys, legal? Because I know when I interview folks, I can't ask these questions. Does collective bargaining, Jimmy, allow the NFL to have different rules than me or you guys or who's ever doing any hiring in this world?
Collective bargaining does not permit you to violate the law. You can't simply create an agreement within your organization that exempts you from the law. And as a matter of fact, in May of 2013, New York Attorney General sent a letter to the NFL telling the NFL that they could not discriminate on this basis and directing the NFL to investigate. The NFL responded saying, we abide by all federal laws. The collective bargaining agreement states that they will not discriminate on this basis. And all that's fine and good, except is there a chilling effect? And are they going to anyway? Mm-hmm. And have they been doing so? Clearly, yes, for so many years. So obviously, it's okay until it's not okay anymore.
Well, you know, we all do background checks on potential candidates here. You're going to check references here, okay, and all the other standard. But Doug, every NFL team has investigators that are on payroll. And their jobs is, when they have a list of people that they're going to consider, whether they be free agents, whether they even be their own players or prospective players they may select in the draft, they're going to start digging around. Is it clear what you can and you can't do in terms of checking and digging into somebody's, in this case, personal life? Some team may say, yeah, you know what? If I take a gay player, it's going to create a PR headache for me. It's going to create maybe unrest in the locker room. I don't want that in my life. I want to find out the guy's sexuality. Or, you know what? I want to find out more about the guy's family. I'm going to dig into it. Is that legal or is it crossing a line?
Well, I think it's not clear. And I think if you are discriminating, if you're using this information to discriminate, you have a problem. But these are big investments. These guys are big investments. So I think that, you know, your due diligence to find out whether the guy is going to flame out, whether he has some sort of problems, whether he can be bribed, you know, that's information that you probably want. I mean, these are big deals, and these guys are going to be around. You're spending a lot of money. But if you show that they're looking for this information, and once they get that information, they use it to discriminate, to not hire the guy, not to give him a contract, well, that's a huge problem.
Well, just take this on a personal level. You were a college recruited athlete. When coaches were talking to you about coming to their program and stuff, if they asked you a direct question about sexuality or something really personal, you know if you don't answer, or you give them the wrong answer, you now are going to be sacrificing potentially a scholarship.
Well, that's the reality.
And a career.
That's the reality,
That's
isn't
the
it?
reality, yeah.
And when you're talking about kids, in some cases minors, or even young adults here trying to have a professional career, Mayo, I'm still confused where the line is. Is it clear? Like, use the investigators, because fine, if they say you can't ask questions about sexuality, you can't ask questions about somebody's family or whatever, they can probably figure out what not to ask. But secondly, they can ask the coach, the college coach. They're going to go and ask, they're going to go dig around, and is that legal?
Well, again, it's a gray area, and the NFL is a not-for-profit, so the fact that it's that changes things to some degree. But the other issue is that a lot of times the teams will have a character clause. So if you engage in certain conduct, your contract can be voided. For instance, if you get arrested, if you have certain criminal activity, drug usage, you may waive your right. It's not a right to be employed in the first place. You have a privilege. You're working there. Most of the time, it's at will. You don't have necessarily a contract that guarantees you're going to be on that
Unlike baseball,
team.
the guaranteed contracts are different in the NFL, right?
Absolutely. And then the other issue is that you start to look at, if you were to look at the YMCA, for instance, a lot of religious not-for-profits or nonprofits are not required to provide contraception under the Health Care Act, okay, because it would violate their religious beliefs. So it really is a very, very complicated area. What I can say is if you look at it on a civil rights and a human rights level, if you don't ask the question, no one would really know. If you do ask the question, that's where a lot of times people get themselves into trouble when you start to give an explanation as to why you're not on the team. It gets sticky. But again, each team also has a choice of hundreds of young men who they can choose to hire or to draft. So when you're making that choice, every choice period by its nature is discriminatory in some way. It may not be insidious. It may be just someone saying, okay, well look, we're in Utah and this person happens to be a Mormon, he's going to play well for the crowd in Utah. So sometimes that's not necessarily sinister in nature, but it's just...
Well, you know what? I don't think is as much of a gray area as it was before. We all remember after the Zimmerman case, stand your ground. And then there was the open-ended question, well, when does a person legally have the argument that their life they think is justifiably put at risk? We're seeing two other cases playing out right now, and I want your takes on, do we get any more clarity where the line is? Is loud music and basically people who don't fit your idea of a safe environment enough? Is somebody picking up a box of popcorn in a movie theater threatening? Well, these aren't hypothetical questions. They're happening right now. We're going to talk about more about that after this.